Good evening. My name is Shelley Lewis, and I serve as president of the League of Women Voters of Geauga. On behalf of our board and the Political Action Committee of Kinston, we welcome you to our 2020 General Election Candidate Forum. Here with a special message from PAC is Kinston student Max Volrath.
Good evening. My name is Maxwell Volrath, and on behalf of the Political Actions Committee at Kinston, I'd like to thank you all for attending Candidates Night and showing your interest in politics. A principle of PAC is to educate those in our community on current political news and candidates. This has been a difficult year in every aspect of life and a huge year for political candidates. And so I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on a virtual Candidates Night during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. I would also like to thank the candidates for donating their time to discuss themselves and their ideas. This is a fundamental election, as it is an election for Congress and the President, with the census also occurring. With various state positions up for election too, this time more than ever, the American people need to get out to vote. Best said by Jackie Robinson, "I've never identified myself with one party or the other in politics. I always decide my vote by taking as careful a look at the actual candidates and the issues themselves, no matter the party label. Like Mr. Robinson, do not follow blindly behind one party tonight, but listen and decide for yourself who you believe to be the better candidate. In a controversial period, we need our voices heard. The best way for us to do so is to elect those we truly believe can accomplish that task." Thank you again and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, Max. A few words about candidate participation. For each race, candidates were invited using previously confirmed email addresses. Decisions not to participate are noted in red for each race. The League of Women Voters of Geauga does not support or oppose any individual candidate or party. Therefore, candidate participation in this forum should not be construed as a league endorsement of any individual's candidacy. Our format and rules for this evening. This is a forum to hear from and question the candidates. It is not a debate. We do not distinguish between incumbents and challengers. Therefore, you will not hear us use titles such as congresswoman or judge. We do not permit surrogates to stand in for the candidate. Candidates for each race present in alphabetical order by last name. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to present and must focus on their own qualifications and plans. The moderator then will present questions that have been gathered from the community via our website and screened by a league panel for compliance with our published criteria. Candidates have 1 minute to respond. Time limits will be strictly enforced. Candidates receive a 30-second alert during their opening remarks and a 10-second alert when responding to the community's questions. The time warnings will be visible to the candidates in the Zoom chat. The word "done" will be displayed in the Zoom chat when the time has elapsed. The moderator may, at their sole discretion, extend or shorten the questioning period. As a reminder, the League of Women Voters of Geauga is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose individual candidates or parties. Our moderator tonight is Dr. Robert Lee. Dr. Lee serves as Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Geauga. Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Shelley. The judge for the appellate court, the 11th district, and 2 candidates are running for this position, Sarah Thomas Kovoor and Cynthia Westcott Rice. So first, we'd like to turn it over to Sarah Thomas Kovoor.
I'm Sarah Thomas Kovoor, and I'm running for the 11th District Court of Appeals. I am your conservative candidate for judge. I hope you look at my record, 22 years of legal experience, both as a state prosecutor and defense attorney. I've done defense in federal cases. I have broad and in-depth experience in civil litigation, including family law, and almost every other conceivable kind of case that could come before the 11th District Court of Appeals. I've practiced in and outside of the state of Ohio, including Pennsylvania and Chicago. I have had landmark cases in and outside of Chicago, and I have tried cases from capital cases as both a prosecutor, felony prosecutor from Trumbull County, and defense attorney, to juvenile and traffic cases. I have done a wide array of civil rights cases, which I'm very proud of, because those are the cases that I have had the most recognition. I hope to bring a very intellectual approach to the bench, where I would have the highest quality of opinions based on the Constitution as written. I have a judicial philosophy which is different from my opponent that I think would benefit the Court of Appeals. So I would like the voters again to remember that I'm the conservative candidate for Judge, 11th District Court of Appeals, Sarah Thomas Kovoor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Cynthia Westcott-Rice.
I'm Judge Cynthia Rice. It's been an honor and a privilege serving as your judge on the 11th District Court of Appeals for the past 18 years. I'm running for re-election to my seat for my 4th term. I've been a visiting judge on the Ohio Supreme Court and also a visiting judge in other districts throughout Ohio, including the 2nd, the 7th, and the 9th District Court of Appeals. A lot of people don't understand what we do at the Court of Appeals. You think about a trial court when you think about a court, but the Court of Appeals is a little different than the trial court in that we do not have juries, we do not have witnesses testify. We have attorneys who appear before us and they argue the law and why they feel that there was error committed in the trial court. So all of the courts throughout the 5 counties in this district, including not only Geauga, but Ashtabula, Lake, Portage, and Trumbull County. I'm sorry?
No, you're.
Is it all right? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so what we do is we review the case based upon the transcript and the record before the court, and we apply the law to determine whether or not there was error committed in the lower court. And that is why the reason the Bar Association polls are so important in this race. The only people who appear before us are the attorneys, so they know who the judges are and who the good judges are. I'm very proud to have been highly recommended by the Lake County Bar Association, and I am the preferred candidate overwhelmingly with 88% of the vote in Trumbull County, and Geauga County should have their bar poll results out soon. But the attorneys, their job, they feel that they have a responsibility to the voters to let voters know who the good judges are. So I'm proud to have their recommendation before the voters. But before I took the bench, I was a state and federal prosecutor. I was the Assistant United States Attorney in Youngstown, where I tried all federal crimes throughout the Northern District of Ohio, in Cleveland, Akron, and the Youngstown courts. And I tried general crimes, federal bank robberies, gang cases, gang violence, drug and gun violations throughout those districts. And when I was with the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office, I was the first assistant, where I tried capital murder, rape, all major felonies. And that is where I really learned how to be an attorney, how to try cases, and how to recognize what people are going through when they come before the courts. And I'm very proud to say that the Cleveland Plain Dealer has endorsed me. They based that endorsement on the fact that I have decided thousands of appeals, and they said that based upon my experience and reputations, voters should re-elect me. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this event tonight. And for more information, you can go to votejudgerice.com to learn more about me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For both of you, we've had questions submitted to us online through the League of Women Voters website, and actually have 4 questions. And with Cynthia Rice first, I'll have you start, and then I will switch to the other person. So the first question that we have is, what obstacles, if any, do you see achieving equal justice? what changes to the judicial system would you advocate for and why?
Well, one of the biggest obstacles to access to justice through the courts is the money. I mean, people don't have the funds that they require to bring a case before the courts. And what we have done at the Court of Appeals is work very closely with pro se litigants so that they can have their case heard to the court, whether they can go online and look at our sample briefs so they understand what we need to hear from them about so that they can get their case heard. And with the new COVID changes that we've made with Zoom hearings, they can appear before the court no matter where they are with really no expense. So I think that's the biggest obstacle to justice. It's financial limitations.
Thank you. Now we would like to go over to Sarah Thomas Kovoor.
Yeah, my practice has been not just in criminal law, state and federal, but also, like I said, civil rights violations, family law, and torts. And especially in those areas, besides where you're given an attorney, even if you're indigent, and I have done many indigent cases where people could not afford an attorney. In the other civil litigations, money is a big issue, but I also think that they have to, any litigant has to feel that they are fairly heard by an impartial court. And that takes a lot of education to the public, outreach to the public, and although as a reviewing court, you're deferential to the trial courts, I think that there's something that I could bring to the bench, which is the sides of a practice in criminal law, defense as well as prosecution, and also have actually had trials, custody trials, divorce, 1983 civil rights actions trials, and I've actually litigated in that broad depth and breadth of practice, and I think I would have a better balance, and when I'm reviewing cases, because I've been a litigator advocating for people in a custody trial, in a divorce trial, where they're—
Okay, your time is up. I made to interject. We'll start with you, Sarah, for this next question is, which areas of law have you practiced in, and to what extent? What aspect of this position presents the greatest challenge to you?
I think I did just mention the types. I will tell you what depths. I have had landmark cases in prisoners' rights. For example, a case in the in front of Judge Posner in Chicago, where I actually had argued against the state of Illinois in how the grievance procedures worked, and the precedent was changed, and this was precedent set by Judge Posner and his panel, and that panel heard my case and amended the previous decision that impacts all the prisoners in this country, and it's good law. So that's the most impactful case I've had. I've had municipal liability in Cleveland against the Greater Cleveland RTA. I've had family law cases where right to counsel in Trumbull County was the court found it.
I'm going to interject. Each time we have 1 minute for a response. And so I don't know if your chat is popping up or not. That kind of gives you a notice. So if you could kind of keep an eye on that as we go through this. So we go over to Cynthia next to also respond to this question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
I think it was two.
Yes. Which areas of law have you practiced in, and to what extent? And what aspect of this position presents the greatest challenge to you?
I've practiced, before I became a prosecutor, I practiced in a family law firm. and we practice general law. So I handled domestic cases, contracts cases, probate matters, just all kinds of general practice of law. And then I became a prosecutor, and for 12 years, I handled extensive prosecution of major felonies throughout the Northern District of Ohio and Trumbull County. The biggest challenge to this thing, I think the hardest thing is the cases that come before me that are troubling, and those are the cases of terminating parental rights, parents who are losing their children. So that's very disturbing, that we have to decide cases and take children away from their parents. Those are complicated cases, they're fact heavy, and it's a very sad event. So that is the hardest, challenging event, case that we hear, I think, in our court, because I take it personally that it's just a difficult time.
Thank you. The next question, and we'll continue with you, is what accomplishment are you most proud of, both professionally and personally?
I would say the biggest accomplishment is, well, next year I will be the chief judge of the Court of Appeals Judges Association. So I've essentially gone up the ranks and become the chief of all the Court of Appeals judges in the state of Ohio. And I also sit on the Ohio Judicial Conference. I'm the co-chair of the Criminal Law and Procedure Committee, where we've reviewed legislation on all matters that are criminal in nature. And we make recommendations to the legislature about changes that we think should be happening to the law, or any suggestions that they have, proposed bills. We make recommendations, give statements to them about what we think needs changed, what could be improved, just to make sure we get the best law in the state of Ohio. And I think that I'm most proud of, because I am a leader throughout the judiciary in the state of Ohio, and I do more than just my job in deciding cases. So I'm very proud of that, and that's a big accomplishment.
Thank you. Anyway, we move to Sarah.
For me, my biggest accomplishment is my 3 children. I went to law school as a second career. I was teaching at Case Western Reserve University. I have always worked and raised my children. However, during the times that were young, it was difficult. My husband at the time was chief resident at Metro Health. Despite two children follow my footsteps and become federal prosecutor, one in Cleveland and one in Wisconsin. My 3rd child is a venture capitalist. They've all done quite well, and they're nice people and they treat people well. So that is my biggest accomplishment. In terms of my legal career, it's my cases of first impression, where I've litigated cases regarding, for example, sexual harassment, municipal liability, prisoners' rights, it's family law, litigation in terms of parental rights. I've actually advocated families in crisis and secure their rights. First Amendment cases, Second Amendment cases, Fourth Amendment cases, and I've been a.
So your time is up. We have one more question, and we'll have you lead off with this, is that who are your judicial role models and why?
Starting with
Sarah, yes, you.
I currently on the court, I would say Neil Gorsuch, although we haven't seen as many opinions from him as I would have liked to make that kind of basis. I feel like he's an independent jurist. He's conservative, he has a libertarian bent, but he is independent, and he's not a partisan individual, and I like that. In terms of who I would idolize, I would say Thurgood Marshall. He was an advocate, a staunch advocate, civil rights leader, and when he got onto the bench, he was a fine and intellectual jurist. So those would be my 2 answers.
Thank you. And Cynthia, Would you like me to repeat the question or?
Your question is who are my judicial role models, and I don't know if we're looking at Supreme Court justices. I know that as a young girl, I saw Sandra Day O'Connor become the first woman on the Supreme Court, and I think that inspired me from a very young age, recognizing that women can have leadership roles in the judiciary, in life. And I think that she was always someone that I looked up to. Of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, just because of her commitment to what she believed in and her fight for what she believed in. I just think that as a judge, you need to be committed, but also dedicated to what we do. So I think those are, and I guess it's just because they're the early women that were on the bench, and those are my role models.
Thank you. That concludes our question and answer period, and would like to thank you on behalf of the League of Women Voters for your participation in our first ever Candidates Night via Zoom. Just want to have a notice that as indicated on the slide, there is going to be a rebroadcast of this event through the Geauga League of Women Voters, as you can see, and also on GTV via Spectrum, that they will also be replaying tonight's Candidates Night. Then the next thing for those who are on site is to also reference some of the other valuable things as we go through the selection process. As the voter guides, Vote 411 is an opportunity for registering to vote, update registrations. Also, the voters in Geauga County should have all received their printed voter guide that have the responses from all the candidates. And this is something that has been valuable, that has been produced here in Geauga County for many years. And for the judicial candidates, you can also go to the judicialvotescount.com, and that is another reference for people that have interest in the judicial candidates. So this concludes our Geauga County Candidates Night for 2020 general election. I want to take this opportunity to thank the candidates who participated tonight. The coronavirus has temporarily changed our world, and it takes courage and passion for our candidates to step out of their traditional campaign box and to speak to the Geauga County voters via Zoom format. The challenges of public office has also become a bit more complicated as a result of social media. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you for your desire and willingness either to enter and or to serve in the public arena. Special thanks goes to the Geauga County League of Women Voters and the Kenston Schools Student Political Action Committee. Individuals in both groups voted many hours of their time to make this event happen. The Geauga League of Women Voters are going to continue to remain equally passionate about increasing voter participation and creating more informed citizens. Thank you again for participating, and best wishes.